Of course, Michael had to change locations, but I am Ryan Block. I am the marketing coordinator here at Northern Illinois Foot and Ankle Specialists, and this is the next in our series of live Q&As. We felt like mixing it up a little bit and wanting to show a little bit more of the depth of the team that we have here at Northern Illinois Foot and Ankle Specialists. So we figured who better for this Thursday morning than none other than the legend, Michael Fishkin. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, I had to bring a little bit of energy this morning.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, it's 10 a.m. Maybe people are just rolling out of bed. You know, we're in the midst of something we've never experienced before as a human populace. So, your role here at Northern Illinois Foot and Ankle is that of our certified Pedorthist.
Correct.
What exactly does a Pedorthist do?
A Pedorthist is somebody who is trained in biomechanical assessment, range of motion, custom fabrication of all different types of foot orthotic devices, the ability to modify different types of braces, utilizing different types of materials to accommodate the patients and what their needs are specifically to the doctor's diagnosis.
Awesome. To be quite honest, before I got into this practice, and I've only been with the practice a little while now, I had never heard of a Pedorthist. So like I've been researching and diving in because I want to get to know what everybody in the practice does, which is another reason why I'm blessed to be able to do these live streams with everyone, because if anybody doesn't ask questions, I get to ask questions. So it's a win-win. We actually had I want to address a question that we had from LinkedIn because we obviously share this content across all of our platforms. We had a question from Edgardo on LinkedIn. He said, great to have a Pedorthist in-house. Any experience with prosthetics for low transtibial amputation?
You know, that's technically out of my scope of practice. That would be utilized more for a prosthetist. Somebody doctor sits there and writes you a prescription. You're going to take that prescription to Walgreens. They're going to fill out your medication list and go from there. Yeah. So if a doctor is ordering somebody to get a custom orthotic, they fill out their script for that orthotic, and I'm supposed to fulfill that request based on materials, based on quality and quantity and all of those type of things.
Gotcha. Awesome. So yeah, now, how long have you been with the practice?
I've been with the practice since September.
Okay. Wow. A lot of everybody's kind of coming in all at like in a very exciting time.
Yeah.
So with the work that you're doing and how it correlates to the rest of the practice, would you mind, and I know you and I personally talked about this a lot over the last several weeks as we've been kind of rolling out some new things, but how does the work that you do fit into our overall kind of continuum of care that we have within the practice? I've been using that term a lot lately because we've been talking about a lot, especially with everything that's going on with the new way of living.
Sure. I mean, it's basically kind of a start to finish approach, and it's a continued care, kind of like if you're going to get your car maintained all the time. I'm kind of that maintenance end where you're going to continue to keep seeing your doctors. The doctors are going to treat your symptoms, your conditions, get the initial approach going. And if they say, okay, we need to dispense this patient custom orthotics, I then go ahead and I'll be that person who takes the mold of that person's foot, go ahead and send it off, or personally make them depending on the particular situation, inspect everything, and make sure that the arch feels appropriate, that it's not taking up too much space inside of your shoes. I'm going to continue to keep adjusting and adapting those inserts along the way as you progress to continue to keep getting healthy.
Awesome. So I've also got like your email of all the various information that you've sent to me. Yeah. And one of the things that I know you and I have talked about in our conversations has been, okay, so let's say you go and you get your foot scanned at one of those little coolest things that you have at the running stores,
Sure.
And you're like, okay, so you get a pair of shoes and then it's like, it still doesn't work. So where does the work that you do in the analysis portion kind of even further expand maybe what you can get done at a running shoe store?
Well, basically at a running shoe store, they're going to sit and fit and measure you. And I tell people that when you're doing that, a product that you get off the shelf, both of those items are going to match. You have a pair of shoes and each pair of shoes matches, but everybody's different in every little way. So I tell people as many times as somebody tells you how perfect you are, your left perfect doesn't match your right perfect. So there might be some subtle adaptations that need to be done with the shoes to accommodate each foot accordingly. It's comparable to glasses. Your left eye could be one prescription, your right eye could be another prescription, and that's how you see appropriately. So if you're complaining about one thing with a shoe or an orthotic, I'm going to go ahead and adapt that to accommodate a dysfunction or a functionality or something that you're complaining about on your right foot, but you don't have any symptoms on your left foot. And that's something that I need to adapt. It's the same thing as if you have an individual who has one leg longer or shorter than the other.
Right.
What are you going to do? You're going to keep walking with a limp, and now you're going to screw up your back. I'm going to go ahead and take that shoe, and I have a sample kind of, is I cut the sole off of a shoe. And then what I'll do is I've got all different types of materials that I'll glue to the bottom, sand it down, shape it adequately, put the sole back on, and nobody's going to know that you have that lift on your shoe. It's going to help you walk balance. It's going to help you walk level. I want to tailor the shoes to fit your feet.
Right. That's fascinating. One of the, you'd sent me an image of, what was it? There was a, what in your experience? Okay. So you craft the shoe to match the foot rather than the other way around.
Correct.
So let's see. Actually, let's see. Scott had a question. How many sets of orthotics does a person need?
I mean, technically, you can have unlimited amount of sets of orthotics. It depends on, I guess, if you're lazy or not, and you are tired of switching them from shoe to shoe. So some people have a dress orthotic that you're going to put in your flats or your Mary Janes or your wingtip dress shoe, something that's low volume, that's not going to take up a lot of space. Or you might have a style of orthotic that's going to be for an athletic purpose with a moisture wicking cover and something that's going to be more of a full length approach that's going to give you extra cushioning and shock absorbency for running. So we've got patients in our office that may sit there and say, I want to start with one pair of orthotics. Let's make sure that we get the formula correct.
Right.
And then we can start cookie cutting from there. And I can make you a dress orthotic, a running shoe orthotic, an athletic orthotic, however you facilitate that you want to move forward. You could have one pair in every shoe.
That's what I was actually going to ask. So if I'm looking at this from the fact that, okay, I have the dress shoes and I also run, so I would look at coordinating both of those. So would one be different than the other? Well, based on what you just said, you answered my question before I was able to ask it. So thank you for that. Also, no Scott, problem. Thank you very much for the question. With all of the work that you've done, and I've got some pictures over here that I can always reference, but
sure.
And I can put them in the comments of this video and share them elsewhere. But
perfect.
I really am curious to know what's been the and pardon the layman's terms, but what's been the strangest, most incredible work that you've done as far as correction, as far as the work itself, and then what it ended up doing for the patient?
Oh, wow. That's different.
With a real question.
Yeah, it's different on so many levels because everybody suffers from something different. If you've got somebody who is a transmet amputee and now they have no toes on their foot, how are you going to rectify this so they don't re-ulcerate and have a problem to prevent further amputation of the foot and, technically below the knee. So to have a toe filler prosthetic orthotic made that has proper padding and offloading, and what that is it's basically an orthotic that's going to fit the shape of your foot, but then it has an end to it that fills the rest of the void inside of the shoe.
Wow.
That way it makes it look like you've got an entire foot. It's basically like a prosthetic, but for the end of the foot, and it's comprised out of a softer foam that if you're bumping up against that, you're not going to create another pressure sore or an issue.
Right. Fascinating.
I've been doing this now for 9 years, and I've got a young girl that consistently I see, and she was born without a hip. She was born with just her femur, her knee, and her tibia, and her leg is fluctuating. She would go back and forth to Florida to go through leg lengthening procedures.
Okay.
And she would need a lift on her shoe. So for me, because one leg grows a lot faster than the other, to put a 7-inch lift on her shoe, which is a picture that I've sent you.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now.
I core it out. I make it nice and lightweight. And she can walk and be comfortable in that. It's basically what I do is medical arts and crafts. So I try to, give people the quality of life that way. She swims, she dances, she trains. She's actually training for Paralympics in Tokyo whenever we get to that point.
Wow.
To take a pair of shoes and, convert them for a special needs child with limited dexterity, who doesn't want a Velcro beige, black, or white shoe, and they want something, neon, cool in color, and to take your standard lace-up shoe and convert it to Velcro and close it back up and make it look like it's an actual shoe. That's something that's great. I mean, it's healing ulcers, it's healing wounds, it's giving people a quality of life that, where are they going to go to get these particular services done?
Right.
It's you're inventing things on the fly, and you're working with doctors to say, okay, how can I get this patient to feel better with this? Or how can I get this wound healed after continuous hyperbaric chamber and instituting wound care therapy and so forth? What do I need to do internally to the shoe to make an excavation or something that you're offloading the pressure on?
Right.
It's all different, and everybody's got a different case. So it's tuned to them per se.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way. That's going to lead into another question that I have. But before I ask the question that I have, Rhonda has a question from Facebook chat. Wearing slippers with no backs is hurting my heel. What is the best shoe to wear around the house so my heel doesn't hurt? And then the second question was, or exercise.
Well, I mean, when it comes to footwear, I tell a lot of people that your flip-flops are going to be a big issue for you because, again, those are the cause of plantar fasciitis. Why you're wearing shoes or slippers that don't have backs on them, because without you knowing subconsciously, your toes are gripping to try to keep that shoe on your foot, which then in turn is now tightening the fascia tissue on the bottom of your foot, creating tightness in your calf muscle. So to have a pair of shoes that actually has a back or a back strap on it, that would make a difference. Clogs can be adapted to have a back strap put on them, and that's something that I can do for you. Nice. But when it comes down to a shoe that has good support, that has a back on it, everybody's got a different brand. We deal a lot now with the Anodyne shoe company, and they've got some really nice house slippers that have a really soft shearling kind of contoured footbed that's in them. Those can be adapted, but those are something that are going to hug your back, the back of your heel, and give you more stability, more structure, more support. It's a lot of people that are doing laundry and they have to go up and down the stairs. I tell people, if you have a pair of shoes, you want to wear them around the house. And I tell people, think in threes. You've got a dress shoe, you've got your typical athletic shoe to go outside, and then you've got an appropriate house shoe that fits your foot.
Okay, so then on that note, before we get to Lou's question, what is an appropriate house shoe, right? Because if we have obviously the dress shoe and then we have the athletic shoe, what would be considered a house shoe? Because, I mean, most of us, myself included, now that I've gotten mildly chastised from everybody for not wearing shoes, even though I'm just in my office all day. Which, by the way, I am wearing shoes now and have been for the last several days. So
Good.
you and Dr. Lovato and Dr. Ibrahim can leave me alone.
Yeah, we'll get on you for that.
But anyways, so what would be, if we're looking for that, okay, now, especially now that we're at home a lot more than we ever have been before, what would be an appropriate house shoe? As far as what I mean, brand recommendation or style?
I mean, it's all, I guess, subjective to the individual as to what you want to wear around the house. Because sometimes I have a pair of athletic shoes that have never been worn outside, and they're just my in-the-house shoes. They might be loosely tied so you can slip in and out of them easily, but it's something that's going to still contain your foot and hold the shape of your foot. I'm a big proponent for New Balance. New Balance is a great brand. They still make about 25 to 30% of their product in the United States.
Wow.
Some shoes are still made solely in the United States versus just assembled in America.
Right.
And they've got a lot of different shapes and structures and brand and widths to go about. I tell people, is another joke is you go to the store and you want to buy a pair of jeans. You've got a pair of Levi's and you've got the 502s. And the 502s are for the no gut, no butt, skinny leg cut jean. But then you've got the 505, which is for the big gut, big butt, big leg cut jean. So every shoe is different in shape. So if I tell people you turn a shoe over and you look at how hourglass shape that shoe is, that would be for one type of foot. And then if you've got another type of foot that has more of that wider, broader sole aspect to it, it's like the lenses and the glasses. The frames and everything has to match appropriately. And that's where a lot of people are misfit in their shoes, misfit size-wise. A lot of people go too short, shorter and wider. And some people go longer and narrower to try to fit the width, because not every brand of shoe makes widths. So to get properly measured, there's not a lot of mom and pop shoe stores around anymore that you can solely go and get measured. That's a service that we can offer here, that I can measure you, give you models, give you brands, give you styles of shoes depending on your level of activity, to go ahead and say, go out and buy these if you can find the shoe store. A lot of people now, you can't go out and go get shoes. So Zappos is a great place. You can buy as many shoes as you want, and they'll take the shoes back 365 days, no questions asked. They pay for your shipping, they return shipping, and you can even buy those shoes, bring a stack of them into me. I'll evaluate and assess and make sure that they are the correct fit.
Awesome. Wow. All right, we had a couple of questions. I think one question, one more statement that I'm going to share for a bit of a humorous uptick. Lou had left a question of, how do you feel about some of the latest digital casting technologies, in parentheses, iPad scanner, 3D scanning, etc., versus traditional casting methods for custom orthotics?
That's an interesting question. Since we do a little bit of both here, we do a lot of casting, plaster slipper casting for our functional foot orthosis. I like these because you get a very good representation of the foot. You get a good representation of the arch. When using these molds, you're pouring them with plaster, so you actually have a positive mold of somebody's foot to be able to heat and vacuum form the materials to. When it comes to the iPad scanners and the 3Ds, we use a lab that we can do both. For our functional orthotics, we can send them a cast. For some other types of inserts, depending on the situation, we can use a 3D scanner. I had my feet 3D scanned to have the lab make me a pair of custom orthotics just so I could see what they felt like. And they work. I mean, if there's something that's a discrepancy or off about those, that's where I fit in. I can build up the arch. I can tune these to make sure that all of the pads, metatarsal pads that are supposed to sit behind the metatarsal head are in the right location. If they're not in the right location, they can cause more pain and discomfort.
Right.
It's about getting it corrected. It's about placement with everything. We've had good success, and we've had, fails when it comes to some of the 3D scanning processes. It's just, how refined is the technique? How refined is the process? Do you have a good relationship with the company you're working with that's fabricating those insoles, so you know what you're calling for?
Right. Fascinating. Thank you. And then Yasir made a comment, not really a question, but I need some army boots to prepare for doomsday. I mean, I had to share it because, the times that we're in, and we all need like apocalyptic humor, I guess.
Right.
But there's been one question that I've been curious to ask, and seeing as we haven't had any other questions come in, I'm going to take the time now to ask it. What made you choose this direction with your practice, like with your career? The stories that I've heard just in the last couple of weeks have just been fascinating. So what's your origin story?
I initially went to school to be a pediatrician. At the age of 12, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So from that day on, it was my mom who sits there and says, you've got to always protect your feet. You have to do something to protect your feet. I wanted to be a pediatrician to make it so going to the doctor wasn't a scary thing. But when chemistry and I didn't get along, I switched directions and just wanted to help people. I found a job off campus selling shoes, actually at a New Balance store.
Nice.
And they trained me and did everything to understand the models of footwear. And a family friend is an orthotist and prosthetist. So he does all the big leg braces. He does all the prosthetics and everything. And he would send his patients to me at the shoe store to properly fit and measure their shoes. So he said, Michael, why don't you get into Pedorthix? Take a look at, what it has to offer. You can modify shoes. You can be creative and crafty. You can really help people in a completely different way and articulate that to them as you being a diabetic, how important it is to take care of your feet and manage that. So I found a gentleman who I was employed for almost 6 years, trained under him. He sent me to the Orthotics prosthetics school to do Pedorthix and get my certification. And then I was basically running the show there for a while, and then decided to branch out, start my own business, and then try to link up with many doctors. And then meeting Dr. McEnany and talking with him and saying, Michael, I've got a great opportunity for you to, help my team. I've got a lot of doctors. I've got a lot of locations. We've got big dreams here.
And more locations now.
Right, exactly. And it's amazing what can happen in 6 months when people sit there and say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But it's just the goal of helping people, and always been somebody to work with my hands and think outside of the box. And it's fun. It's, like I said, it's medical arts and crafts. It's helping people. It's looking at people and saying, I'm going to keep you walking, because if your feet are killing you, the rest of your body's killing you, and you don't want to do anything. It's the simple tasks in the morning of plantar fasciitis. I get out of bed, my foot's killing me. That first step is atrocious. And then you got to go stand on a tile floor in your bathroom and brush your teeth and wash your face, or shave if we decide we want to. But, it's the simple tasks in life. And now I've got a 14-month-old at home, and you're running around with her. If your feet hurt, it's hard to do that. So for me to have different facets of not only making orthotics, but modifying shoes and letting people know that there's something out there that's different. It's a different line of work. It's not your everyday, job, and letting people know what you're here for, how you can help the doctors, help the patient to get them on the right path of recovery.
That's beautiful. I thank you so much again for taking time out of your Thursday morning to join me.
I know, my pleasure, yeah.
Thursday mornings are a little bit odd as far as like times, but it just worked, and we obviously want to keep consistency going. But thank you for sharing that story.
No, my pleasure. Yeah.
with our mission here, one of our missions, or at least my mission here, is to redefine what podiatry is, to redefine reframe what the general public's view is on podiatry and foot and ankle specialty. So this adding your depth and your expertise has been wonderful. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah, no.
And I hope that everybody who has tuned in live got what they wanted from this today. I will be keeping an eye on the comment section of this video. Sure. And should we get any other questions like throughout the day or even throughout the next week or so, I will definitely share that with you, and then maybe we can get those answers live or back on to those individual people.
Sure, that's great.
Awesome, everyone. Well, we will be back again next Thursday for another live Q&A. Stay tuned to about Wednesday when we make the announcement of who that special guest will be. And in the meantime, thank you all for your continued support. We are still open. We, in fact, just opened our 8th location in Hinsdale. So that's 2 locations since I've started, and I've been here since the 14th of February. So I am excited to see the growth of this organization and even more honored to be a part of it. So thank you to everyone for being a part of this and for joining. I know it's a live Q&A can always kind of be in a weird situation. So I'm blessed that everybody was able to take part today. So
yeah, me too. Me too. I'm proud to be part of this organization. It's great.
Yeah. So if there are no other questions, we will leave you to your day. Thank you very much for tuning in, and see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, guys.